Hey there, my fellow lunatics, and welcome to Dakon's Madhouse. Hey there, my fellow lunatics. Today we are going to take these mob farms that I have built, and we're going to secure all of them with a nice little perimeter. Means I'm going to be tearing down a lot of stuff around the sides, but I want to show you what it will all look like to make it all secure. We're also going to set up in this area here an automation section so that all of the loot from every single one of these farms all gets sorted and placed in one single area. And I'm also going to place down a little waypoint spot up in this area here just for decoration, so I have an area to come and go with ease. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, I'm going to be clearing out basically with one spawn cell around my entire farm. And I'm going to turn all of that into just empty space. I'm going to be destroying all the stuff here. I'm going to be destroying everything on the left here. I'm going to destroy everything we got down in this area here. And I'm just going to make one giant perimeter of empty space with probably some shimmering water in there. I'm also going to clear out all of the empty areas in between all the farms here that's currently just dirt, and put shimmering water in all of that as well. And I will be back when it's done.
One eternity later.
All right, y'all. So I have got this whole area dug out now. Basically one full spawn tile around everything that I've built. And I've just flooded it all with shimmering water. This way, there's no chance of anything spawning anywhere near my mob farm. Now, I also have it surrounded by a layer of lava, just as an extra bit of protection to keep the riffraff out. But we still have to put walls around it. So, now that everything has been dug out, I now need to go over around that border and wall it all off so that nothing can actually get in. Because right now, things can get in. I like to use the Desert Temple block walls just because I really like the Desert Temple blocks. But, you know, use whatever you prefer. And really, you don't have to go this far out. This is kind of insane, I think. But you could just extend around the edge of everything, which would bring it all in about 16 tiles in each direction. It'd be brought up, so it'd be a lot tighter along the edge. I just trying to create a much bigger zone of protection for myself. And walling it all off, like I said, this will keep the bomb scarabs out, this will keep the butterflies out, this will keep out anything that really threatens to mess with your mob farms. Alright, at this point, what we need to do is essentially tear down these temporary collection areas, and we're going to build a brand new collection zone in the center here. So I'm also going to need some temporary storage for all of this stuff while I'm building that. Why don't I go ahead and first just build out a little area up here for the waypoint, and I can put my temporary storage there. We'll decorate it later. For now, this will work for temporary storage for me. Alright, so we're basically just going to break all this down. Okay, don't break the walls. Okay, with all of the smaller storage areas removed, now we can safely start putting together our brand new storage area. So what you're going to need for this build are robot arms. You're not going to need this many. Just get yourself a bunch of robot arms. You're going to need crude drills or regular drills. It doesn't matter which type of drill. You're going to need double chests. You're going to need some logic circuits, electrical generators, wires, electricity sticks, and conveyor belts. Now, these numbers that I have here are not what you actually need because the size of this is going to vary based on how you put it together yourself for your farm. So I just want to go over the basics on how the storage automation and sorting works and show you how it gets put together so that you can adjust it to your specific farm needs. Now, your chests get spaced out essentially every other tile. I'm just going to go 4 down. Then you're going to want to take a drill, and the direction of the drill is going to depend on how you want things to flow. If they're flowing up, your drill is facing down. If the things are going to be flowing down, then your drill is facing up. So in my case, I'm going to start with everything flowing downward here. So all of my drills get placed like this, facing upward toward the chest so that the loot will get pulled downward. Next, we take our robot arms, and on the tile for the chest, you're going to face your robot arm away so that the claw is on the opposite side. On the tile next to the drill, you're going to face your robot arm toward the drill. I'm just going to do all the ones that are going toward the drill first. I'm going to face it away here. Now we've got all the ones that are facing away from the drill. Next, you're going to take your conveyor belts, and you are going to turn them in the direction that you want the items to flow. So since I want my items to flow down, I'm turning my conveyor belt to turn and face downward. You're going to place conveyor belt tiles next to the robot arms on the same row as the drill. What this does is that when an item is in the tile that I'm essentially standing in right now, it will get forced over, picked up by the robot arm, and moved to this chest. If it cannot be placed in the chest, the drill is going to pull it down into the drill tile. At that point, the other robot arm is going to pick the item up and move it into the conveyor belt tile. The conveyor belt is then going to pull the item down to the next set of tiles, and the process repeats itself, slowly moving the items down each drill and checking each chest to see if the item can be placed. If it can, it will place the item. If it can't, it moves it on down. Now, once we've reached the bottom here, we're going to take our conveyor belts and turn it inward so that all of the loot is just going to get moved across the conveyors over to our next set of drills and chests. Now, this time I want everything to pull upwards, so I'm going to be placing my drills facing down. Same thing with the robot arms as last time. The ones on the chest are facing away. The ones at the drill are facing toward. And we just connect everything together. This way, anything that comes from these will loop over to this side, get picked up, and moved through this system. Be sure to put one conveyor belt behind your final drill, because sometimes if things move a little too quickly, items can get pushed back by the drill into the tile behind it. In this case, this will help ensure that if anything gets pushed to the final drill and behind it before your robot arm can react, then it will still get caught up in the conveyor belt system. Don't forget to add your conveyor belts that are moving up the line this time, so that everything moves into this next spot here, and we continue the process moving down until this is as large as we want to make it. For all you visual learners out there, this is a sideways design of pretty much the exact same thing. We were just putting the chests here. We've got the drills. They're facing left or right instead of up or down. And the robot arms function exactly the same. They face away from the chests, and they face toward the drills. Your conveyor belts need to be in the same row as the drill, and they need to be facing in the direction that you want the loot to go, left or right. Alright, now for my design, I went ahead and went with the horizontal look because I felt like it actually was a little bit easier for me to get to everything with the layout that I've got currently, with everything just kind of sandwiched here in the middle in these two tiles. I had to create a little bit of a gap, so I have one fewer chest than I normally would, and I've got this conveyor belt line kind of walking through this area, but I don't like the way it looks, but it's functional, and that works for me. So this gets me all of these chests. Now, right now, we don't have any power to any of it, so we have to get this stuff some power. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I've got enough ground tiles around me so that I actually can provide power to this thing. And I'm going to put a power station on each side. So that should pretty much guarantee that everything is well powered. What we're going to need for this is an electrical generator, we're going to need some logic circuits, wires, and an electricity stick. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to create some connection wires because I know I need to link up the robot arms on this side with the robot arms and the drills on this side. So now we place down 3 wires, the first 2 connecting to these top 2 wires here, and the third one creating this little L-shape kind of pattern. Next, I'm going to take a logic circuit facing up and connect that to my wires. Coming off of the logic circuit, I'm going to create 3 more wires, going 2 to the left and 1 down, creating another L shape. Then we're going to take another logic circuit, turn that to the left, and point that outward toward these 2 wires here. Grab an electricity stick, place that under your second logic circuit, and then we're going to connect all this with power by placing the generator right there between the 2 logic circuits. Photosensitivity warning, guys. There's a lot of flashing lights here. What this does is it creates a timer that is going to cause the drills to turn on and off at a rapid pace so that they're able to pull loot back, but they won't do enough damage to the chests to be able to break the chests. Additionally, the robot arms continue to stay on just quick enough that they are able to grab any item that comes into their tile and move it. The power on and off cycle is fast enough that they will continue to work properly. Now we just need to build one on the other side, and we may have to also build one in the middle depending on how far this power stretches. We shall see. I'm going to build the other one down here to try to give it the highest chance of connecting with all of these. It's possible, based on the way this is laid out, that we may need to actually move this power down here, and so that it's closer to the main line instead of the secondary line. Really, you may have to adjust and move things around based on how your farm is laid out in order to make sure that everything is powered properly. So here's an example of the problem we're running into right now. With this current layout, I am not getting power to these final drills here, and I also have one robot arm right here that is not getting any power, and that's going to mess things up. So I'm going to need to make a 3rd power station in order to fix this. Maybe even a 4th power station. May need to have one at the top, one at the bottom. So we'll see what we need to do, and I'll let you know once I've got it all figured out. Ultimately, for my layout, I needed to have 4 generators put together, and they can't be connected, because once I connected them like I originally had, things started breaking. The power was on all the time. But once I had the 2 on this side, and then I come over to this other side, and I've got 2 more here, and that's enough to power everything. But now we actually have to get the loot to all of this. And we need to create kind of a pattern or a flow. How do we want all of this to go? So what I'm wanting to have happen is essentially I want this area to be a giant circular conveyor belt, and all of these farms feed into that circular conveyor belt, and it just loops around constantly. So we kind of have that in place a little bit right now, just from having all of this set up the way it is. So we can continue that by putting this here. Now we have a complete loop. Any item that gets on this essentially treadmill is just going to keep cycling around this whole thing. You can very easily get this one in. We're just going to put the robot arm right back. And it's going to need a little bit of power. Let's give it some power. You can see it grabbing things and moving all that over. Since this chest is empty, it's not going to cycle it through the system yet. I'm going to go over in a minute how we cycle actually through all of this. So just go to each one of your loot points on each farm and put down conveyor belts heading back toward your auto sorting setup. You may need additional generators just to provide power to the robot arm in the area. And that they do not need any special setup. They just need the power. So in order to ensure that you actually properly have everything sorted right in here, you basically only need one point of entry. And in my case, I have decided that that one point of entry is right here, because this mob farm that I have placed here, I just don't have an easy way to move the robot arm anywhere better, really. I mean, I probably could move it a little over to the right, but it won't help that much. So this is my point of entry into the entire farm. All of the loot from the right just comes straight here and enters the auto sorting system. Loot from this farm goes straight into the auto sorting system. Any of the loot from the bottom right, you can see it's moving along the right conveyor belt. Get down here so you can see a little bit better. And it just moves from the right all the way up into the system. You can see this bottom conveyor belt here that has the scrap and the hand mortar on it. It is also going to just move everything up into the system. What it's doing is it's grabbing all of the loot from the bottom farms, as well as all the farms from the bottom left and the top left, as everything from the top left is coming down to this conveyor belt, where it then goes onto this bottom one ultimately. I also had to move my conveyor belt setup here a little bit to the left so that this robot arm could more easily move things over into this left conveyor belt and down onto the bottom. Items that are in the loop will go on this inner conveyor belt, where they will stay in the loop indefinitely. Once you get into the loop, it just keeps cycling you back through it. At this point, the way to get things organized is to essentially fill up each one of the chests with the various items that drop off of this farm. Now, what I like to do is I like to fill up the first 3 chests with the items that can stack, and then I let everything else just kind of spill over into like a general loot kind of area. And I like to keep a salvage bench nearby. I'll place one down here eventually so that I can just salvage all my extra loot that I get off of all of this extra stuff that I don't actually need. But it does take some time for the farm to build up its full stash of all of the items that it can store within the first 3 chests. As you can see, my second chest is less than half full. My third chest is empty right now. So I'm going to have to come back here periodically and just keep an eye on things to make sure that all the loot is getting into the right spot until everything on this farm has spawned at least once. If you don't want to wait for that, you can always look on the wiki for all of the specifics for what drops off of everything. And you can just put at least one of each of those items in all of the chests. And that way you don't have to think about it. This thing does spawn a lot of figurines, and I think one full chest gets filled up with just various figurines. And that's it for this build. Everything is now in an automated auto sorting system where all of the loot will basically start on this top right corner and steadily move on through until everything has filled up. And then you can just come in here and clean up all of this extra gear and get all the materials from it, do whatever you want with it. There's just so much. This is loot from just a couple of hours of letting these mob farms run, by the way. It fills up pretty quickly. If you have any questions about how I put this together, please be sure to check out each individual video for each individual farm. You could also leave a comment down below if you have any questions specifically about automation here, or really anything else. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more content. And I love you guys. Stay happy, stay healthy, but above all, stay crazy.